Or 6
Recording
p.m.
in
Please rise
progress.
for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take the roll.
Councilmember Wood,
Here.
Councilmember Richardson,
Present.
Councilmember Kaufman,
Here.
Councilmember Smith, here, Councilmember Hess,
Here.
Councilmember Palmer,
Present.
Councilmember Kaminsky, here, Mayor DePinto.
Here. Moving on to agenda approval. Councilmember Smith.
I would like to move to reconsider the January 9th motion to confirm Mayor DePinto's appointments to boards and commissions to move it to old business.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Hess. Open for discussion. Councilmember Smith, would you like to start? Or would you? It's open. It's been motioned second to reconsider that. The appointment vote. Would you like to start off with anything?
Yes. The reason that I'm asking for that was at the December 12th council meeting, there were 4 boards and commissions listed: planning, arts, parks, and police advisory. We, if I'm remembering correctly, we voted no or we tabled it. We went to a special meeting on December 19th. That one listed 5, so not just 4, it added the homelessness committee. Then, and we turned that one down and we voted no. Then on January 9th, Councilmember Hess brought it up as old business. We were given the paper and the motion from the December 12th meeting, which only had 4 boards and commissions. And we voted on that. It did not include the homelessness committee. And then on January 17th, the Nisqually Valley News printed an article stating that it's too little for me to read, but that we confirmed 5. And we did not, so there's a discrepancy. So that's why I want to move to business.
Okay, Councilmember Hess.
I just want clarity on this. You're saying the vote already happened, correct?
The vote that
Reference is already happened.
from January 9th.
Right, that's correct. So that means that we have already approved your appointments. So we're reconsidering, and my question is, if we reconsider, that vote's already passed. It's already done. So what are we? And I just want clarity on what we're reconsidering.
Councilmember Smith is asking to reconsider her vote for that, for that particular vote on January 9th. Under CW and Washington state law, you are allowed to reconsider up till 1 meeting after. So the meeting directly afterwards, you can reconsider your vote on basically anything. It's very uncommon, but it is allowed under RCW and for our bylaws. It does require that the council, a majority of vote, a simple majority, at least 4 council members has to vote to approve, and then we take another vote. Excuse me, and then we can either vote again, which would go down to old business. Or it would automatically go to old business, and then at that point you could choose to vote as we did, and Councilmember Smith could the same way or differently, or any other council member could. Is that clear enough?
No, that clearly, as I said, thank you.
Sure. Is there any other discussion? Councilmember.
I was just curious to find out about the 5th one. So there was 4 that was on there. What was the 5th? And
There were 6 total,
6 total.
but salary was not filled or not. Salary was not right. Homelessness was listed on the December 19th meeting, but not on the December 12th meeting. And what we voted on only listed 4. It did not list the homelessness committee. So the discrepancy is the Nisqually Valley News posted for all five, when in fact, and I went back through the meeting, it wasn't even discussed. We didn't talk about it. I'm not saying that the,
Right.
okay,
So is that a discrepancy of the news that they posted the wrong information, or is it a business that we missed?
I don't know. I asked that question.
We looked back, Kathy, as our city clerk, do you want to kind of address that?
Well, the motion that was made at the previous meeting was to approve the appointments that were presented in December. That was the motion. It didn't specifically list out which committees were being voted on. And so I think there was a little bit of confusion on Councilmember Smith's vote as far as if the homelessness committee was part of that or not, because in the first, when it was first presented, it was not. And then it was added to it later. And so because there were two different lists that were presented in December, and the motions was to approve what was presented to you in December.
And what we passed doesn't match what was printed. So that was my
Well,
first.
what we passed was what was presented in December, but that is, so if there's confusion on someone's vote based on which one they were approving.
Right, the one that we voted on the 9th, we were given the December 12th, which had 4. And then Nisqually Valley News listed 5. So there's a discrepancy, and I think it needs to be addressed.
Mr. Richardson?
So I do have, with discrepancies, that's a big deal. So is that, again, so I'm trying to find out, we voted under the impression of what we were presented. So were we just mispresented something from, I don't want to, basically where we presented something and then we voted the way we did, but we were not informed fully.
That vote wasn't on the agenda, is that correct? It was a verbal.
Bring it off the table.
It was a verbal motion.
Off the table that, yeah.
Correct. So Councilmember Hess made that motion. I was going as the intent, and I didn't clarify, so it wasn't exactly with each position. The document made was from the first meeting in December, correct? His motion didn't necessarily have to say that that's what it was from. Our interpretation was it was from all of it, as I'm assuming most members as well. But this is why we're having this conversation. Councilmember Smith is on the rights to do so.
I guess I would assume when we table something, we would table that thing as is in the condition that it is in the.
The last version of it.
And so when we untable it, wouldn't that come off the same stipulations?
Yes, it would, but he made a different he didn't say exactly that motion. Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize. During the meeting, I specifically asked about the salary because I knew something was missing. I didn't have my laptop. I didn't know it was going to come on that. And that's all that was mentioned. The homelessness was never discussed.
I specified that the salary commission was not on.
You did. You did. And my biggest concern, and this is just for the public, people out there, is there's a discrepancy. There's a discrepancy about what I think I voted on versus what, and I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but it wasn't discussed, and then what the paper stated is different. That's
Right, now I understand, because I guess we would feel we want to be represented well, and if we're going to vote on something that it's recorded exactly as it should be, so I understand the situation. Okay, I just need to get better understanding.
There's been a motion to reconsider the January 9th vote regarding the mayor's appointments. Is there confirmation? Is there any more discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. A yes vote would be to reconsider it. A no vote would be to leave it as it is. Councilmember Wood, how do you, Councilor Richardson?
The yes is to reconsider.
Correct.
Rough for me. Nay.
Councilor Crossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
yes.
Councilmember Hess.
No.
Councilmember Palmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Motion carries. It is now moved to old business. We can go ahead and take it up at that time as part of the agenda. If it's We still need agenda approval though, but now it is correct. We move to old business. With that being said, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Councilor Smith,
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Wood, he had his hand on that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. We have an agenda. All right, moving on to special presentations. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for patience with that. We have the YMCA presentation up first. Kyle, South Sound YMCA's CEO, please.
Awesome. Well, thank you for allowing me to come back. This is, I don't know, the third or fourth time. There's some new faces around. I'm really excited to be here. We're here tonight to talk. I'm going to go over a couple things. And there's a couple of slide presentations. I was already told that we've gone old school with the boards that you can actually touch. So if you haven't gone up there to look at the design boards, you can certainly do that. So we're here to talk about the, what the process is to bring a YMCA to Yelm. And I'm so excited about this. I arrived here in the South Sound in 2015. And I've been in YMCAs essentially since I was a sophomore in high school, working at summer camps, working at YMCAs. And it's just been an amazing thing. But the very first thing that happened when I got here in my job as the president of the South Sound YMCA was a phone call from now your mayor, Joe DePinto. And everybody, including him, says, when are you coming to Yelm? When are you going to bring a YMCA to Yelm? When are you going to build them? And that is a conversation today that still happens. Anytime anyone from Yelm sees me says, when are we coming to Yelm? Well, what's not to like about Yelm? Breathtaking beauty, thriving outdoor recreation, strong schools, amazing opportunities. You're surrounded by beauty. But we know that our kids are struggling, especially after the pandemic. Mental health, anxiety, bullying, isolation. And it's not just our kids, our families are struggling as well. Families are struggling to support their families and their kids, which leads to growing stress and anxiety. And our communities are struggling with homelessness, a lot of division, violence, and scarcity. And these problems are super complex, they're interrelated, and they require a synchronized, comprehensive, community-wide approach. And that's really what the YMCA is about. It's not really about the building, it's about the building that brings people together. And that's what we're really, really good at. We're good at bringing a lot of different people together. And if you look at the partnership that we've kind of lined up, when you think about the city, the library, healthcare provider, workforce development, there's all kinds of interested parties that want to be a part of this project. They've come forward, they've talked about it. They like the synergies around wellness, education, healthcare, all the relationship building and connections that are made in those spaces. And of course, the fun. Who doesn't want to have more fun in Yelm? So why now? The needs have never been greater. As I talked about, the isolation, the community division, anxiety, supporting kids, making sure that there's a lot of recreation opportunities. And as you all know, Yelm is a growing community, and people that are moving here expect things like a Y. So then how does a Y actually happen? I've said this a couple different times to you. Can you make that go to, there we go. Cool. So we really have, in this whole conversation is really modeled after the most recent YMCA that we built, which was in the Shelton community, which Shelton and Yelm are similar in demographics, similar in size. And so we learned a lot in that process. And so if you hit the clicker, we really have this, what I would consider kind of a formula for thriving YMCAs. And here it is. So when you think about it, we talk about optimum building size, central location, utilitarian programming spaces, and community co-creation. So I want to talk about a little bit of those each. So when we think about optimal building size, we're not talking about building an 80,000 or 100,000 square foot YMCA. I'll have you know that the largest YMCA in the United States is built in Sumner, Washington, oddly enough, 104,000 square feet. To give you some perspective, if you understand or have ever been to the Briggs YMCA, that YMCA is 44,000 square feet. So the Sumner YMCA's natatorium, which holds the aquatics spaces, is larger than the Briggs full YMCA. An example. So what we learned in Shelton, so we built a YMCA in Shelton, and that Y is about 27,000 square feet. And within it, we have Mason Healthcare, we have workforce development, Pack Mountain Workforce Development, and then of course the YMCA. And we also have a credit union in there doing financial health fitness for families. So within that space, you know, we kind of learned that we probably need to be in that 30,000 square foot range-ish. I mean, it could be a little bigger, it could be a little smaller, and we'll talk about the library here in a minute. Obviously, if you talk to any realtor ever, they're going to tell you that location, location, location. So it's got to be visible, it's got to be in an obvious spot. And when we talk about program spaces, we want to talk about program spaces that could be used from multiple constituents throughout the day. So as an example, at the Briggs Y or Shelton is another good example. So in the morning, you might have active older adult classes, and then in the afternoon, the kids come. And I'll tell you about this. If you go to the Shelton Y in the afternoon, anytime from 2:30 to 6, there's no space. It is packed full of kids. And in fact, we didn't build enough outlets to charge all the phones. So that's another lesson learned. So the utilitarian spots. And then if I were to do this formula again, I would put co-creation first. Because really, again, the YMCA doesn't come into a community and say, hey, we're bringing a Y to Yelm, or we're bringing a Y to Shelton. We are invited in. And we're invited in because there's a community need. And so, yeah, we got some weird disco lights on. As soon as your eyes went to it, it started to distract me. So anyway, the co-creation process, you really want to understand, what does the community need? What do they expect? And obviously, what I hear every time that I come to Yelm or talk about a Yelm YMCA is we need a plan. And then the other thing that, as we've started to have conversations with folks in the community, it's really about this whole conversation with the library. Where is the library going to go? And can you co-create spaces like that? And when you're talking about smaller rural communities, you want to get as many entities or organizations into a place as possible to create that community hub kind of atmosphere. And that's really what we're talking about here. So that really is how you equal up into the thriving Y. If you want to hit that next slide, we'll talk about size and cost. So we built the Shelton YMCA in 2019. It was constructed in 2020 and opened in 2021. I would not recommend doing that in a pandemic again. So let's not have another one of those. That is very challenging. But again, if you talk about a 30,000 square foot size, that's without the library calculated in there, because we don't really know how big the library needs to be. So this could be bigger or smaller than this 30,000 square foot thing, and it could be a little more expensive. But the 20,000 or the $20 million price tag is at about $600 a square foot. The Shelton Y back in 2019 or at the end of 2020, I want to say it was at like 548 change. So, the library could bring money to that as well. And then next slide. And then, so how does the funding stack? How do you actually afford this? So these numbers can go up or down percentages and with the dollars. But really, when we looked at the landscape in the Yelm community, we thought we could raise somewhere, local philanthropy. That's people giving their own money to a project like this, like a capital campaign. And we think that's somewhere around, it's probably a little higher than 2 million. I would say you're in the 3 to 4 million range. As an example, Shelton raised from the community outside big major funding things like Shelton has some very wealthy people on the Hood Canal, as an example. And we were very fortunate that a couple of those grew up in Shelton and then caught wind of the project. So they helped fund it. But I would say in the Shelton community, there were about 4.5 to 5 million, roughly. And then regional foundations, this will happen to a Yelm project as well. Big foundations, an obvious one is the Gates Foundation. You have the Balmer Group. They are friendly to YMCAs. YMCAs are built in the state of Washington a lot. And when they are built in the state, those regional foundations do give. And then the state funding will happen, Mayor DePinto has assured me that we will at least match what happened in Shelton, and that was at 3.5 million. And so there's two funding sources in the state. One is they're all from the Commerce Department. One is called the Building Communities Fund. That's where we got $3.5 million for the Shelton Y. And then there's also a youth recreation facilities grant that we did not apply for in Shelton because it didn't qualify, but I think Yelm. And so that could be more money. And then we're at, somebody's going to ask somebody to talk about, go out to the community and see if the community would support the project. And that's really what we're talking about. Let's get community input into this process. So that's where the 15 to 18 million comes from. And then again, the last little slide here is when you talk about capital campaigns and when you think about any big funding strategy, you need a lot of rights, a lot of R's need to be there. You need the right people, you need the right project, you need the right amount, you need the right mix of stuff that's in it and the right mix of funding and then the right timing. And I guess all of these things, they all need to be there. But what makes it the timing right now is Yelm is growing. And then the biggest thing, our YMCA, since I got here in 2015, we really kind of see ourselves as the educational Y. We support education. And until Yelm could pass a bond and support schools, we didn't feel like we could come in and try to ask to raise money in a community that wasn't doing that for education yet. And so now that has happened. And there's another vote on February 13th. So support your schools. That's very, very critical. And that's really the presentation. That's really it. And of course, these are just design. I mean, there's been, I think, 8 YMCAs built, say from probably back to 2012 on the I-5 corridor, plus the Shelton YMCA would be the newest. So I'll take questions, and then I think there's some folks in the audience that may want to say something.
Councilmember, some questions, comments. Councilmember Palmer.
So the taxpayers, these bonds, this is going to be taxpayer driven. This is going to be our community paying for those bonds ultimately. So I'm kind of wondering, because I'm looking on Forbes here and total revenue for the Y is 7.9 billion, total expense is 7.1 billion. So you have $800 million available. What are you guys doing with that? Are you funding other projects? Is there some way that we can tap into your guys' money?
I wish that was our money. So what you're looking at is the national YMCA. So the national YMCA doesn't fund local projects. So the local community funds local projects.
Councilmember Hess.
With a Y being Yelm, what is the radius that you're looking at of people coming into and utilizing the YMCA?
Great. So it's different. So I'll use Shelton as the example. I would say 23 to 25 minute drive radius. So wherever you locate the center of that, you take a 25-minute drive time. And that's a rural community different than an urban center. And so just to go down your question a little further. So the Briggs Family YMCA has about 5,600 member units. The unit is counting a family as one, even though they could have 5 people in that family. So 5,200 of those. The Shelton Y has about 1,700. And we think Yelm is going to be between 22 to 3,000. Roughly.
Councilmember Wood.
I saw in your layout there as far as funding, the different funding groups, 75% landing on us. I didn't notice any number up there for what percentage the YMCA is putting in on that. Because I'm assuming that you're going to charge people to use the YMCA.
Yeah. So we take all of the funding that comes from the YMCA and we bring that back into the program. So in any given year, we give away about $1.6 million in financial aid and scholarships. And then the rest of that goes into, again, when you own a building, you have to replace HVACs, pools, boilers, roofs, like all that goes back into the facility.
Okay, and he asked about the revenue. That 800 million was the national YMCA, doesn't trickle down. I'm curious if you can tell us what they spend that on.
Training and support to local YMCAs to do the programming. So it's more skill development. It's not facility design and building. Great question.
What do you project would be the, either a monthly or annual, membership fee?
I would peg it to the Shelton Y. So what we did in Shelton, which is a little different than what we've done in the past, is we had a Shelton. So right now you can join the South Sound YMCA at a certain rate, and you can go to all three Ys. That also gives you national reciprocity to go to any Y anywhere in any state. So that's a certain cost. So let's just say that that's for a family, I think it's $97
Is that an annual or monthly?
monthly.
Monthly.
And so what we did in Shelton is we lowered that to make it, work for that community. So you could either do that, or you could just buy a Shelton membership.
I'm kind of going off that. What happens if they can't afford?
We scholarship them. So if we don't turn anyone, kid, family, adult, doesn't matter what program, whether it's membership, whether it's youth sports, whether it's swim lessons, whether it's, any childcare, all of that, if you can't afford the full cost of membership, we give you financial assistance. So no one's ever turned away, no matter what.
Councilmember Smith.
Is there a vetting process for that, or is it just so? Okay.
I mean, if you tell me that you need it,
Right. Okay.
we agree with you.
That's what
All of Yelm needs help.
Yeah, that
All of
was kind of gonna be my
We
question.
will help all of you. Yeah, exactly.
Councilmember Crossman.
Got a couple. You said that you pull about 25-minute radius from, the location.
Yeah.
Will the bond cover all that area, or the tax bond be just city limits? Where
Great
does
question.
the tax be pulled?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in bonds. That's going to be what you will get expert advice on that. Like, that's not me to say. I'm just showing you that I guess there's two different funding strategies. You could either do a bond like what I put up there, or you could make it all philanthropy, meaning you would go out and try to raise the 20 million or whatever it's going to cost to build the thing. The difference is how long that's going to take. So to raise $20 million on philanthropic support in a smaller town is going to take 7 to 12 years. It took Shelton 33 years to get a Y there.
Kind of my follow-up question, can I answer, is if the bond fails, is that the plan?
I mean, we hadn't talked about that. I mean, I'm not.
Agency plan for the bond.
Yeah, well, I guess two thoughts to that is, if the bond fails, does the community really want a Y? I think we need to answer that question. And then, but I'm not willing to give up on Yelm or a specific community. I mean, there's a saying in that world that every community can afford, deserves the Y that they can afford. And so that's why we're not saying that, hey, let's go build 100,000 square foot YMCA or match up to what they're doing in Seattle or Bellevue or wherever.
Other questions, comments? Councilor Kaminsky.
Just trying to remember from your previous visit here. The tenants in the building are the ones that pay for the upkeep of the pool. Am I correct in that?
Well, yeah. So at the end of any given year, if we make more money than we spend, which is the goal, then that money goes into reserves to make sure that we're taking care of the building. So like as an example, in the Shelton case, or I'll use the Briggs case. So the Briggs Y is 33 years old. Over the last 8 years, we've spent, I don't know, probably close to $3.5 million replacing HVAC systems, roofs, boilers.
Well, that comes from the 800,000 that you were talking about as part of the
Well,
water.
comes from the net difference between, our revenue and the expenses. So our job is to get really good at running the YMCA. So there's more revenue or there's more dollars than what we spend at the end of the day, so that we can turn that back, A, into scholarships, and then B, into, a building reserve that then preserves that, so that, 10 years down the road, when you need a new HVAC, you already have the money.
It doesn't seem like the rent, I don't know what the rents would accumulate to that much money, but I could be wrong.
They do.
Okay. And then
If you run the Y right. I mean, there's some that don't.
and the other question that came up before was location.
Yep.
Who provides the location?
We do as a community. So back, no, so back,
You do? So we're supposed to provide the property and then you build the line on the property?
no, I mean, you could do that. That's what Shelton did. Shelton gave us the land, so surplus some land, they had land, and then so we used that, and that was really smart because we essentially built it on the campus of the junior high and the high school. So I don't know if you've been to Shelton, but the high school and the junior high have the same land, and the Y was built on a little triangle of land there. So we share a parking lot with the junior high. So you don't have to do that. And you, meaning the city council, I'm not saying the city council has, or the city has to provide the land. That's just what Shelton did. When I was talking about location up there is, you know, the co-creation process of figuring out like where this Y goes would be a group of people, could include city council members, could include just, you know, citizens, to figure out like, where do we want to put this Y? Where is the best place to put the Y?
So if the city has no land available, do you buy a piece of land?
We, the project would buy land. And then that, you know, that, well, hopefully it's in that $20 million range.
But it's still owned by the YMCA.
Yeah, and we talked, there was some question about ownership. I'm agnostic about ownership. The city could, you know, if a city runs a bond and ends up, you know, having a good portion of the amount of dollars that go into the capital campaign, then you can own it. The Y doesn't need to own it. We would just run all the stuff.
Councilor Heston Smith.
Back to the fees. So you're looking at a monthly fee, and then if somebody wants to utilize daycare, do swim lessons, take advantage of any of the activities, are there additional costs, or does the fee cover that cost?
Some are covered and some are not. So childcare, like everyday childcare for like school age childcare, that's a fee in and of itself. Generally, like youth sports is a fee and aquatics is a fee, but everything else is included. So if you just want to come to swim without being instructed to swim, that's part of the fee. And classes generally like Zoom, you've probably heard of Zumba or, you know, any sort of fitness class, those are generally part of the membership. Those are part of the fee.
Councilor Smith.
How many acres roughly?
Do you need?
Yes.
You probably get by with as little as 3. Ideally, it depends on what else you want. So those YMCA's right there are pretty much just the Y in the parking lot. If you wanted to have, you know, baseball fields, some athletic fields attached to that, you need obviously more land. The Shelton case is 10.5 acres, and we built on 3 of it, and 3 of it includes the facility itself and the parking lot. But remember, we share, so our parking lot is smaller than a typical one because we share the junior high parking lot. So if, again, you could get by with 3 acres.
And then I think going off of what Terry had mentioned, so the $20 million estimate, whatever, does not include the land, or it does include the land?
We would make it include the land in that. So maybe you build a little less. I mean, you want to, the 20 million is just a earmark deal.
Okay.
We have to get to some understanding of what we're building before we really know what it would cost.
Councilor Kaminsky.
So just for clarity, did you say that the city of Yelm could own the YMCA, but you would act like managers of the project?
Correct. You would own the building. You wouldn't own you would own the physical structure of the building. And we talked about this earlier today that, you know, you want to protect whoever ends up owning the building needs to have some revenue attached to that. You have to do something to be able to, in the future, as things go down, you need to upkeep the building. I've run Ys where I've got to Ys that didn't do that. That's called deferred maintenance. And it is not a good thing. In fact, I mean, I could go into horror stories about what that does to things. Then you don't have enough money at the end of the day to scholarship people and help people that really need help.
Councilor Crossman, then Richardson.
So the building you have proposed now, what size of population is that serve?
The 30,000 square feet?
Yeah.
I would say anywhere from, you know, between 15 and 25,000 population. Is that what you mean? As opposed to like,
Like, yeah, because, okay, right now, city limits, we have 10,000
Yeah.
outside 25 miles.
Yeah.
I don't know how big that population is.
it's about,
In the next 10, 20 years, we're going to be double.
yeah,
That's
fantastic.
going to be obsolete in 10 years.
No, well, no, it wouldn't be obsolete. We would build to make, so what we learned in Shelton is the way that we built is to add on to it. And so again, if you go back to the land question, knowing that you need more than 3 acres so that you could add on as the community grows. So that would be smart design. And again, working in partnership, whether that's subcommittee of the city council with citizenry, included in that, we would make a lot of those. That's that whole bucket on the, when we talked about community input, like that's not for me to decide. That's for the community to decide. Craig.
Richardson.
So if we did, as a city, own the building, then the YMCA would lease from us and pay rent, and then on top of that, would they, electricity, water,
Yeah.
Wi-Fi,
Oh.
gotta have Wi-Fi.
Sure.
All those things, so those things would be assumed by the YMCA and as like a,
So again, we're talking about all this is hypothetical. We would get into a conversation. So as an example, let's just take the Shelton example. When they gave us the land, they gave us a 100-year lease in 2 big increments, 40 years and 60 years. It was $1 a year. And then they allowed us to buy the land at the appraised, unapproved or unimproved state. So within a 20-year period, we could buy the 10 acres for whatever the appraised value was back in 2018. And so we did that. So now we own the land and we have to own the building. Shelton, the city of Shelton didn't put in dollars. They gave us the land because they didn't think they could pass a bond.
the YMCA still functions well without having ownership of a building, but running the
Well,
facility.
we own that building.
I know, but if hypothetically, they would.
It happens, I could give you, I think Joe's got, I gave him like 25 different examples in the country
Yeah.
where municipalities and YMCA's work all the time together.
Cool.
They do this all the time. Same thing with hospitals. And if you can get a YMCA, a city and a hospital together, that's even better. And so what we're kind of putting in the placeholder of the hospital, is the library, like that would be a new deal. And that would be unprecedented. So if you have a library, a hospital, and a YMCA in one building, again, more synergy, better.
I just think with going to ask people to accept something like this, hypothetically, they're more, probably convinced to do so if those things were involved in the agreement of, ownership of the building that belongs to the city. The idea of these things. So, why would we want to buy something? Oh, you can have it. Take my money. It's yours.
Sure.
And again, that's, it's just those types of things people think about.
And in those 20 some odd examples, whatever I gave to them, I mean, there's probably all 25 of them are structured differently.
Good news, right on.
And some are like what you said, and some are like, yeah, the Y owns it and just does it. Sometimes in some cases, the hospital owns it. And then, I don't know, I can't remember what the city contribution was, but something was in there, obviously. The Sumner example, just to give you another example, is at the time, the city was running a golf course and they ended up not wanting to do that anymore. So they sold the golf course and they took the proceeds of that, which in that case was $10 million, gave it to the Tacoma Pierce County YMCA, and then they built the Sumner Y. So they exchanged one asset to another.
Councilmember Palmer.
Yeah, I had a question about, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but so basically it would come down to different agreements on, say, the impact it would have on our public works department, having people that would have to do maintenance and things of that nature. Would you guys take over the large?
You could do, yeah. So again, back to the agreement side, I mean, everything is negotiable. So if you want to own the building, but you want us to do the maintenance and like what we do in our normal facilities, we can totally do that.
Okay. Perfect. Otherwise, we'd have to hire a bunch of people to.
Yeah, that's why it makes more sense to do it the other way. But again, if you need to own it, I mean, I get it. You can do that. And there's a number of ways that we can structure that to make sure that the city is good and to make sure that the YMCA does what the YMCA is good at.
Like the hands-off approach, like give it all to you, and then there's the, we want to be involved in everything.
And then and then there's a lot of synergy between those maintenance departments too, if we needed to go there. But we do really well in our, we manage how many, it's like 150,000 square feet of buildings with pools that are complicated to run and maintain, and we're good at it. And we have been doing it here collectively. If you take the senior executive leadership team, we've probably got, 70, 80 years with YMCA work. And then if you take the YMCA as a whole, you've got 187 years of running YMCAs that we can pull on, going back to the point about, what does national do? If I need to get a question answered or figure out how to do something, I just need to make a phone call and I get.
Councilor Crossman, Nicholasky.
I have a slightly unfair question for you to answer. Let's see what you answer anyway.
All right, unfair.
So you're coming in, this is mainly a concern of other competing businesses that aren't a small town, local, they're not taxpayer funded, they're not behemoths, they're people digging out of their wallets and trying to scrape by. And so you're coming in as a competition that's taxpayer funded, big deep pockets. How do you affect your competition?
We don't. So if you go back to the Shelton example, this was great. This was a question that came up there in that community a lot. The Shelton Athletic Club is probably stronger today than it's ever been. Not everybody wants to work out at a Y. I told you at 2:30 in the afternoon, if you go there as an adult, you will hate it because it's loud. There's a lot of kids around. And like the county commissioner, Kevin Schutte, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the county commissioner in Mason County. He used to work out religiously at 3 o'clock and he called me up one day and said, man, I can't handle it anymore. I got to get out of here. We got to get a different time for adults to be here. So again, so the Shelton Athletic Club is as strong as it was because we've probably driven more adults to them than any time in their history. They haven't yet called to thank me, but that is a true story. And our niche is families. So yes, adults are going to join the YMCA, no doubt about it. But what we focus on are families and community strengthening.
Councilor Kaminsky.
Oh, yeah, back to the real estate question.
Yeah.
Do you have any Ys that lease the land in perpetuity and never actually buy them?
Yeah, like I didn't know that we were going to buy the land in Shelton. I was thinking that the 100-year lease was going to work. We had talked about, it is generally a big commitment though. It's like, I think the state of Washington has a rule. That's why we did this in the 40 and 60 buckets. There's some amount of lease time that it can't just be one 100-year lease. It has to be broken up into chunks. So I would say that you need to do that to get our board needs to be comfortable, like all the time and effort and stuff that we're going to put in. So we don't want to give it up in 50 years. It needs to be a big. And we have a tagline that says, we're here forever. When we come into a community, you don't want the Y to ever leave. I mean, that doesn't work.
I was going to ask you, does anybody ever split ways with you
No.
and say, that's our land, well, that's our building?
And that's why the relationship is super important. The relationship with the city council, and council changes, as you all know. So that's hard because you want to make sure that the relationship is, and that's why the agreements are important. And all of that comes into play. And the more forward looking you are, like that question about, growing that you asked. Again, I think that people moving into Yelm are thinking that they want facilities like this. They want entities like this. They want opportunities for recreation and family time, not to mention good jobs and good, strong schools. Like those are all part of a strong community. So making sure that you are thinking, 50 years in the future, when someone else is sitting in your chair 50 years from now, they're going to be thinking that was a good move.
Councilor Wood.
Just based off what I just hearing you say, what you were telling about your community member that there just wasn't going to go to the other gym because they didn't want to work out with the children. Or I think that's going to be a hard. How do you suggest we approach that guy about us raising his property taxes so we can build a facility that he doesn't want to work out at or won't work out at, and all the other folks that just don't.
Yeah, it's hard to say what you would say to that person other than what I'm proposing has happened in probably every community at some point in time that a YMCA has come in. There's very few communities that don't have a YMCA, and the way that they get a YMCA is because the community comes together and says, we really need this because we've got these gaps. So I don't have a great answer to that other than it happens all the time in every community.
If you don't mind, I'm curious what gaps you're referring to. I know we don't have a swimming pool, but we do have lots of workout locations. We presently do have a library. Comparatively in the region, it's a pretty darn nice library.
Yeah.
What you mentioned about the different partners, you mentioned a hospital. Well, hospitals bring in a lot of revenue. And shifting that out for a library, I can tell you as well as the entire council, your libraries don't bring in a lot of revenue.
Yeah, right.
It ends up costing the citizens for that, which unfortunately, not the vast majority of the citizens use that. So I think that's just an additional add-on, and it's of course my opinion, but I believe that's just an additional add-on. There is great value to the folks that are using, but to the folks that aren't, we're literally looking at asking them to foot the bill on something that they're not going to use, similar to the majority of our community that doesn't use the intercity transit, but we all pay for it.
Was there a question?
No, I was just you answered my question. That was just a response.
Any other questions from council? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this topic?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you. That was great.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this? Specifically on the YMCA, there will be an opportunity during public comment to say whatever, but during this one about this specifically the Y. Is there anyone that wants to speak?
I wasn't here for that, but go ahead. I was gonna ask, a couple of guys, you said everything's negotiable. I feel like it'd be easier to sell.
I'm sorry, could you please say your name for the record?
Sorry, Ted. Do you guys ever like share profits? I mean, like say if everybody puts up millions of dollars for this facility, I mean, does the city get some of that profit?
Yeah, if you talk about, so the agreement, if the city owned the building, there would have to be some revenue share there so that.
Just the leasing part though? I mean,
Well, no, there'd have to be the reserves about the building.
there is. So whatever, over a certain percentage, the city will get back.
All that's negotiable.
Okay. That was it.
Other questions, comments? Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Brian. I work for the Southtown YMCA at the Briggs location. I'm also it's going in my 10th year, but Yelm High School football coach. And I just want to say that the YMCA is a complete life-changing experience for youth, for families, for adults. And, I know you were talking about how to make it work and whatnot, but I do think that having a Y won't only change lives. I think it brings opportunity and community to everyone involved. And I think that's a huge deal as someone who sees youth, they don't have places to go after school. I see it all the time. I just read something about McDonald's and not letting youth in there. People need places to go, right? And so I think the opportunity for the Y and what I've seen in my 9 years here in Yelm, I think the opportunity, and I love Kyle all the time. You can ask him. I think it's a match. I really do. And I think I see it every day in my own work and my own development with the YMCA and the families at the Bridge YMCA. And so I just understand the power and the magic behind it. And I think me also being out here and seeing the need in Yelm, I think it's a match. And so I just I appreciate all the conversation around it. So, thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak? Yes.
John Jaskowitz, first off, I wanted to echo your sentiment, but like you said, it was Brian. I feel the same way about YMCAs, and I did want to bring up that I actually moved to Yelm about 1.5 years ago from Ridgefield, where I was working with an architecture firm in Battleground by Johansson Wing. I don't know if you know Don Luther by any chance.
I do.
Yeah, he does a lot of work with you guys. And I want to say that I was actually working on the design for the Ridgefield YMCA. I actually did the visualization drawing for that one too. And of all of the clients that I've worked with across the board, from healthcare to schools to prison systems, The YMCA is by far the most amicable and friendly to work with. I could not believe when he says that it's a relationship, it really is a relationship. I've heard that said a lot with relationships between cities and jurisdictions and other organizations. And I couldn't believe how open and receptive the YMCA was to working with us in different ways. So I wanted to bring that up, but also working off of what Mr. Councilman Wood said, or his question about the person who says, I don't want to pay towards something that doesn't benefit me. Can you speak towards other potential value of having a YMCA in a community, from property values to business growth and development in the cities?
Well, you just did.
That was perfect. In terms of, is there
It'll
any?
definitely make the property values and, working out, stand back up. Working out of the YMCA is not the only thing that you can do at a YMCA, and it's not the only programs that we run. So just because somebody may not want to work out there doesn't mean that they wouldn't benefit from the YMCA. And again, when you think about what are the things in a community that drives a community and makes a community healthy, it's places where people can go and congregate. It's where people can build relationships. It's where people can get support that they need, whether that be family support, individual support, kid support, adult programs. I mean, we do a whole bunch of different things. As that person ages, isolation is a big deal. I don't know if you saw the Surgeon General. It's one of the leading causes of it's the next pandemic, according to the Surgeon General. And we are the place. If you come to the Briggs YMCA in the morning, you will see a ton of active older adults that aren't like on a treadmill or in the water or doing a class. They're sitting in our lobby drinking coffee. And they're sitting there because if they're not there, they're lonely at home. And so people need relationships, they need connections, they need to feel like they belong, and that's what a YMCA does. Good call. Are you in Rutgers? Yes. Well, all right. Yeah, that's right.
I was gonna say, I appreciated what you said about the Shelton schools, and for you gentlemen, I think we have property behind our high school. I don't know if the school district owns it, whatever. Something like that could be a really great synergistic thing. And the other thing we probably need too is, like, I'm sure you have daycare and childcare programs and all sorts of things for little kids. And I think there's a shortage of that for sure in our community.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so if you could just work all that out for us, it'd be great.
Any other questions, comments from the, and please state your name.
My name is Jordan Martin. I live in Rainier, but I work in Yelm. I fondly enjoyed my time at the YMCA as a kid. We couldn't afford a membership, so I didn't go that often, but it's a massive lift to do that. I mean, $20 million is not chump change. I look at the water park just yonder. It's a great job on that. Awesome. My kids go there and I see the skate park and the city has done great things within itself. Like I said, I enjoy the Y, and it's a very pretty concept. But I wonder if the city would be able to come up with something to serve its own citizens internally. That's a thought. It's a massive lift, but we've done well so far.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from public? Yes, sir. Just please state your name.
Eugene Coulter. I got something that wasn't mentioned here tonight. What's the average cost of membership through the YMCA?
So if we're talking about family, I would say somewhere between $75 and say $90. Adult, I would say $50 to $55. And then again, we would match it to the community, like median income. And Yelm, we would match that up like we did at Shelton.
Per month.
Per month. Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Do we have anyone online that would wish to speak?
Don't have anyone with hands up.
Okay. All right. Kyle, thank you so much for that
Thank
presentation.
you, everybody. This was fantastic. Have a great evening.
Thank you, you as well. Which word it is. All right, moving on to our next item. We have a presentation for the 2023 City of Yelm Employee of the Year, Lynn Roy. Todd, would you like to?
I would love to.
Tease up?
Lynn coming in here?
We sure as heck hope so. She's starting our system right here.
Second delay.
5 seconds away. So you know, we're aware of the light flashing. We do that on council meetings to attract.
Come on.
You only have in the audience today. It's clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cody, you got a ladder over there to fix that?
Switch it off.
It does take a bucket truck to.
I would imagine that's there.
All right, I'll grab her.
You grab her. I don't want to start talking about her until.
Fair enough. Just a reminder to the public though here, audience, if you do want to speak on any topic here, please go ahead and fill out a blue card if you have one. If not, we can have one filled out later, but be sure to state your name for the record.
Blue cards in the lobby.
They are.
Okay. They are supposed to be, I
They
believe.
don't look like it in the picture.
Okay. No problem. Our 2023 Employee of the Year for the City of Yelm, as voted on by the department directors, Mayor DePino and myself, have selected Lynn Roy, the Communications and Recreation Coordinator for the City of Yelm. Lynn started with the City of Yelm in October 2022. She quickly transformed the position into what you see today and has elevated the expectations of the position beyond our imagination.
That's okay, I'm not crying.
You're going to. From a communication standpoint, it has dramatically increased transparent communication, both internally and externally, using a variety of communication methods. Lynn manages 3 city social media sites and updates the city webpage as needed. The City of Yelm government Facebook page had 762 followers in 2023 to bring the total followers up to 6,900 folks actively following the page. We also had over 25,000 visitors and reached a total of 193,000 people in 2023 on that particular page. The Parks and Rec page was created early in the summer of 2023. At this point, there are 1,000 active followers to the page with nearly 10,000 visitors, and we've reached nearly 39,000 people in the short time that it's been there. She also manages the police department social media page. We added more than 1,400 followers in 2023 and currently have over 8,000 active followers to that page with more than 34,000 visitors and reached more than 239,000 people in 2023 alone. For the recreation side of the position, as if that wasn't enough, Lynn coordinated 49 recreational events in 2023 with more than 2,000 people participating. In addition, Lynn obtained over 30 sponsorships to support these activities. 2024 will be another active year with multiple recreational opportunities, as well as the significant 100-year celebration that Lynn is working diligently on. We are very fortunate that Lynn chose the City of Yelm to work and serve the community she loves. Her work ethic, endless energy, and ideas has made Yelm a better place to live and work. Thank you, Lynn, for everything and that you have given to the City of Yelm.
The lens is still on it. No.
In front.
Did anybody try and have that speech?
The other little.
There we go. I can see the camera.
I don't think that's.
Holly, I can't.
Very tall.
I'm gonna slide, Holly's gonna slide a little bit to the left or right.
What?
Holly, left, right, there you go. Okay.
On Cody.
Speech.
The presentation is separate.
That's separate. Thank you. I don't know how it gets better than this. That's a Taylor Swift quote, and it won't be the first of the evening. Thank you to the City of Yelm for providing an environment that fosters growth, innovation, and collaboration. It's a privilege to work for a city that values its employees and invests in their personal and professional development. Thank you to Mayor Joe, Todd, all of the department leaders and you as city officials for your guidance, mentorship, and for trusting me to bring recreation to Yelm and to share our vision and mission. Your commitment is a driving force behind our achievements, and I am truly honored to be a small part of this exceptional community. I warned Kathy earlier that I could not get through this without. So here we go. When I started at the city, I knew that I wanted to be a part of making memories, helping families of Yelm feel a connection to their city and leaving my community a better place than when I moved here in 2011. And I think we've come so far in doing this. This is the part. Last week, someone asked if there was a moment in my first year here that made me think I was exactly where I belonged. And I want to share with you this evening what I told him. Yes, there is a moment that I can pinpoint where I knew I was where I needed to be in my life. It was last year at Prairie Days. My best friend Emily had a baby in April, and she brought him to the street dance. This tiny 2-month-old little dream. And she stood dancing with him as the music from the performance just filled the air. And seeing her, my very best friend, create this memory with her newborn, I should have brought Kleenex, was incredible. I was so honored to be a part of creating that moment for her and with her and for every other family in our community that take advantage of what we have to offer. We're fine. Our team's commitment to excellence, teamwork, and tireless dedication to serving our community has been extraordinary to see. This award is a reflection of the time we spend working together to create a Yelm that we are proud to live, work, and play in. Thank you for accepting me into your community, for treating me like the family I don't have locally. They are watching via YouTube tonight, and for loving on my sweet dog, Ruby. We are so lucky. In closing, thank you for this award. I am so grateful for this recognition and look forward to continuing to enhance the quality of life for the residents of Yelm. Long live the magic we made. Thank you.
Use Kleenex.
Not used.
Finally used tissue.
It was, it's fine.
It's fine.
It was clean. All right. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Yeah, I think I'm next.
Yeah, you are. We are doing the community 2023 community events updates.
Great.
Please, Lynn, share with us.
Welcome back, Lynn.
Thank
Our
you.
events this year.
I'm Lynn. We haven't met. So I am here this evening to give you a quick year in review for 2023 in communications and recreation. We're really going to focus on recreation. And if you'll notice, Miss Taylor Swift makes another appearance. I don't know how it gets better than this. That is my motto for 2024. So you're going to see that. Cody, and we can just kind of keep it rolling relatively quickly because a lot of this is, not that quickly. That's it. 2023, we did bring in 49 total events, like Todd said just a little bit earlier, over 2,000 participants and over 30 sponsors and partners. And those are sponsors like Twin Star Credit Union, who sponsored our street dance. And all of our partners who were able to bring us the national night out, just those who we couldn't do the events without their help and support. Mr. Doug's, PTL, all of the, I mean, I'm looking at you guys, so it's easy to bring them up here. Those are just some of the ways that we would not be able to do what we do without those partnerships. In 2023, we brought opportunities for play in sticker stops, in game nights, in the Mayor's Cup Mario Kart tournament, the Mush tournament, Prairie Days, National Night Outs, opportunities for our residents to get out there and have some fun, take advantage of our parks. We presented them, thank you, Cody, for keeping me moving along. We presented them with opportunities for learning by partnering with the library to do story trails, our summer reading program, Math for Life, that we partner with Thurston County for, and we even taught people how to taste honey effectively. Keep it rolling. We present opportunities for creativity in cookie decorating workshops that are wildly popular, paint nights, and even an orchestra concert where we brought in a lovely symphony. opportunities for fitness in our Sunshine Yoga, 100 miles in 100 days, and of course, our Mushwell tournament. We do have some other opportunities for fitness that are going to be coming up in 2024 that are going to get our residents out there in the sunshine again. So what's next? Of course, this is a big year. It is our Centennial celebration. We are working very hard to celebrate Yelm in the 100 years in the way that it deserves. We're going to be bringing back the Mayor's Cup, of course, Prairie Days, Christmas in the Park, and our Parks Passport program is going to focus on our Agents of Discovery app that we have this year. So we're excited for that. And thank you. And again, Miss Taylor Swift, there goes the loudest woman this town has ever seen. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Never heard a Taylor Swift song. I don't listen.
Now I guess I can't say that. Do you want me to sing?
No, could you sing it?
Good answer, good answer.
Any questions, comments from the council? Any from the public? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have enough time for this in the park. Got to be close. Thanks, Lynn.
Get back to work now, Lynn.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on to our last presentation. Thank you for the patience for all this, the public and we have our Kindness Week proclamation. Whereas the city of Yelm recognizes the value of acts of kindness that are performed without prompting or reason, how these acts positively impact the person offering kindness, the person receiving the act of kindness, and those witnessing. And whereas the Great Kindness Challenge was piloted by 3 Carlsbad public schools and has now expanded to all 50 states with nearly 17 million students participating. And whereas kind individuals can create a more caring community and help to perpetuate genuine acts of kindness within their city, state, and even throughout the world. And whereas Yelm Community Schools proudly demonstrates their commitment to improve school climate and increase student engagement by participating in the Great Kindness Challenge and inviting local businesses and organizations to join them as YCS Kindness certified companies. And whereas YCS Kindness certified companies are dedicated to creating a culture of kindness at their businesses, supporting the Yelm community, and creating a kinder and more compassionate world. Now, therefore, be resolved that I, Joe DePeno, Mayor of City of Yelm, do hereby recognize January 22nd to 26th, 2024 as the Great Kindness Challenge Week, where kindness matters in the City of Yelm and beyond. Signed, City of Yelm, Washington, this 23rd day of January 2024. All right, moving on now to public comment. If you wish to speak, please, if you haven't filled out a blue card, it's all good. We can get your information, but state your name for the record. And you have 3 minutes to discuss whatever you want. Is there anyone that wishes to publicly testify? Please.
I didn't fill out a card, so I'll have to do that.
Just state your name for the record.
My name is Ted Tatum. I'm from Southfield RV Sales. I'll take less than 3 minutes. Nice to meet everybody here. The main reason I came this time was for advertising. I was told that the city council makes these decisions. I have a Southfield RV Sales at the end of Yelm there. We've been there a little over 3 years now. I've had a dealership in Puyallup for 23 years. I buy pretty fancy, like for sale flags, finance flags, anything, to be honest with you, that I've learned over the years that gets people to look over at us. And the Yelm has told us we cannot advertise with those. And the example I want to share with you guys, and I'm just praying that this will change, is that a couple of people in here called me after one of the meetings saying we can advertise them from this date to this date during Christmas. I'll be honest with you, we put our flags back up within a day or two, 2 sales, 3 sales. We saw you guys were having a sale. We're in here. It makes such a big difference to us small businesses. It's just hard to be told you can't advertise. You can't tell people you're open. You can't tell people you're having a sale. In this economy right now, we need everything we can get. So all I'm asking is to reconsider that flagging ordinance, and hopefully we can advertise for our businesses. There's dozens of others doing it for some reason, but I'm not allowed to. I want to be able to advertise for my business so people can come in and buy trailers from us and go camping with their families. I mean, that's what I'm here to do. And that's it. So, you guys.
Questions, comments from council? Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to testify? Anyone online? No. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. We have a few items on there. Councilor Wood, did you have something?
To approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? right, it's been motioned second. I am just going to read exactly what's on there real fast for the public's knowledge. We have December 19th, 2023 special meetings and January 2nd, 2024 study session meetings, study session minutes. We got the October 2023 check register and position summary. We have the November 2023 check register and position summary. We have the purchase of mini excavator and rough terrain vehicle. We have Vista at Mill Pond plat alteration. So motion and second, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to new business, a Region 3 Omnibus Mutual Aid Agreement. Chief.
Mayor, Council, thank you. I'm proposing that Mayor DePinto sign a Region 3 Omnibus Mutual Aid Agreement 6-month extension. Basically, this is just an extension from the original 5-year agreement that was dated in January 10, 2019. They're just still working on that, and they're just asking for a 6-month extension until that is completed, and then I'll bring that forward to the final document at this point. So this is just a 6-month extension for that.
Questions, comments from council? Councilor Wood.
I move we authorize Mayor DePinto to sign the Region 3 Omnibus Mutual Aid Agreement 6-month addendum.
I'll second it.
Richardson beat you by a hair. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to item B, Microsoft 365 implementation. Jason, I believe that's you.
Boss? No, there's not there. So, good evening, council. As we discussed in the study session, we're looking to move forward with our contract with SHI to purchase our Microsoft 365 licensing. The document in the agenda, how much the stage 1 would be expected for and how much the total was, like we discussed. And we're looking to move forward with that process.
Questions, comments? Councilor Richardson.
I'd like the motion to move forward with the purchase of Microsoft 365 in the amount of $40,000 as approved in the 2024 budget.
Second.
Quick second. Councilor Palmer. Is there any discussion?
And just a comment, we spent a lot of time talking about this and tried really hard to convince you that that was the wrong choice. And unfortunately for me, you did the convincing, and I think it's a good choice. And I think we're left with really no other option other than what they've left us. So.
Thank you. Councilor Hess.
And just again, with that discussion, one of the things that I'd asked during that, the discussion all is that we find ways to get the employees that all work with it certified, take full advantage and really exploit the system to its fullest, or else the money, if all we're using for PowerPoint, Microsoft Word and Outlook, we're really not exploiting it. So that's all I ask.
Is there any further discussion, comments? So motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Mason.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to item C, amendment number 1 of this agreement with RH2 for construction management of the Southeast 1.55 million gallon reservoir. Brad.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Well, first of all, so really, these are kind of a package deal. This item and the next. You can't have one without the other. This first one is amendment to the professional services contract for construction services for our next agenda item. Can I present these as a package and approve them together? Are we allowed to do? No, I don't want to approve the construction management contract without the construction contract. Does that make sense?
Brad. All right, no, we can't do that. We will have to, we're gonna have to ask council to, do you have to have it in that order?
As long as they both pass, we're good.
Why don't we go ahead and talk about this, talking in relation to the next item? Okay. And then we'll, if it doesn't pass, we'll go back and we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with RH2 for construction management of the Southeast 1.55 million gallon reservoir. So a little bit of background, the Southeast Reservoir Project was recommended in the city of Yelm's water system plan to meet the city's storage requirements. The proposed reservoir will provide additional fire flow storage and increase water demand to accommodate Yelm's anticipated in the city. So our current situation is RH2 has completed 100% plans and specifications. We're now ready to move to the construction phase. A detailed scope of work for construction management is attached. Staff recommends approval to authorize Mayor Joe DePinto sign amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with RH2 in the not to exceed amount of $237,464.00, including Washington State sales tax for the construction management of the 1.55 million gallon Southeast Reservoir.
Brad, would you talk just briefly about what the next item is?
So the next item is the construction contract with Happany. We received 3 bids for the construction of the reservoir. And we opened those bids on December 20th, 2023 at Public Services, and the bids were reviews for completeness and accuracy. Tappany Inc. of Battleground was determined to be the lowest qualified bidder. So this contract is for $6,367,107.55, including Washington State sales tax. So in your packet, I did add the final bid tabulation and plans and specs for you all to review. I know it's long-winded, but it really is pretty interesting if you dive deep into it.
Okay, with that being said, how about I ask council if they would motion to approve this amendment, because this is for the construction management. This is management, correct?
The amendment is the construction management.
So this one is the management. The next one is the actual construction of it. I would ask the council would approve this on condition of passage of the next item. Councilmember Wood.
Brings up a good question. It's an amendment for $237,464. What does that bring the total cost up to?
So
this is just for design, right?
So, this is just for construction management. So design is complete.
Okay, just the construction management. This is in addition to.
Yes, in addition to their design, which was, I don't have the.
No, not the design. That's been paid for. That's a Dundee. What I want to talk about is this it's just interesting how this is worded, authorizing the mayor to sign an amendment, which tells me this is an amendment to the price, and maybe I'm looking at it as a change order kind of language here, but is that accurate?
And that's kind of what it is sort of a change order. So we were under contract with them for design. And then we amended the contract for construction management services.
Okay. Councilmember Hess.
If I remember correctly, we had a discussion about this with the fact that what we are basically paying for with this amendment is to have a project manager that we do not have available at the city at this time, and that it allows somebody to take responsibility, be accountable for, and everything for the construction of this project, which is not just a 1 year, but it's a multi-year project going on. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Councilmember Smith.
Going on what Councilmember Wood said, is there a reason why there are 2 different contracts? Is there a reason why there wasn't a contract for design and then we would be presented with a new one?
Because it creates a lot of extra work.
Okay.
I mean, if we wanted to make that our policy to have separate contracts, we could, but it does create a lot of extra work for the city. So amendments are typically how I mean, we've done quite a few of them. That's typically how that goes.
Counselor Wood.
Yeah, I'm curious if we, if we can put it on a future study session to talk about this, but I'm wondering about, I mean, $237, that's a pretty good salary. I'm wondering if we can talk about hiring our own construction manager in-house so we don't have to pay another company to do it.
I think that would be, I mean, not for this.
No, not for this. No, I'm not talking about for this.
We can talk about that at council retreat. If that's-
I think that's something that we could end up saving some money on.
Go ahead, Councilor Renz.
For Councilmember Wood, your question was, what would be the total cost that we're looking at for the two things we're going to pass? We're looking at about 6.6 million.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
What he's referencing was the design cost that's already been taken care
I
of.
just wonder if there was any additional, what it was from, yeah. Cody, please.
I just want to talk to the construction management piece. It's a good in theory to do that. The issue is a lot of projects are really specialized. So this one with metal, you have 128 feet of metal going up. The specialized inspector has to do those things. We could hire someone to do that, but then the next project may be a water main underground PVC pipe. And we'd have to be specialized. So if one person couldn't fit all the roles, you'd have to continuously hire a new person to fit the role of the specific project. So it's easier where a company has people on staff. We hire them, we pay that money instead of trying to hire someone for a year to do that. Then the next project would have a different person with different expertise. It's like you have a person who's professional cooking, like they're really good at baking salmon, but they're not really good at baking steak. You would have a different guy that bakes steak maybe or something, or cook steak. So it's just, they're different roles, they're specialized. So
I understand what you're saying, but the way you're describing it is these construction companies aren't coming with an upline to handle all of this part of these projects. That they're coming in there as just basically a framing crew and looking for someone to tell them how to do this.
No, so the construction, this is our guarantee. So the construction company has its own people and its own things, and they say, okay, we're doing everything right. You don't have to worry about us. We have a person who's professionalized in that. They can go there and look at it and go, this is all right. I agree with you. So there's a double eye check from the construction company.
I understand, but doesn't the state of Washington have to sign off of that under all of their code and all of their OSHA regulations in order to make sure that all of that is being done properly?
No and yes, they don't have active inspectors that will come out and check. They'll check like, hey, they don't even check the plans, I believe. We're the ones who have to go and check those things. We send in the stamp plans when they're finished, but they're not going to inspect to make sure that everything's
The
designed.
architect's an architect. He can look at plans and understand what they're saying. I'm just saying that's a lot of money, even if they have to get some additional training.
Okay, Councilor Hess, about how long is the project going to take to complete from beginning to finish?
Looking at middle of 2025 for completion.
You're looking at about 2 years.
And with this construction management contract, we're not just getting one person. We are getting a team of professionals and that are professionals in all different areas is because this is such a huge project.
What fund is this coming out of?
This comes out of 404, the Water Capital Fund. It is budgeted. We have the money for it. The other aspect of that too is, there are people processing the submittals. Is the steel up to grade? Is it the right steel? Is it the right thing? Someone will inspect that. We don't have the ability to inspect that. We don't have that knowledge. Is the bolts the right bolts? Are they have, so that's also in that construction management contract. Someone is looking at every piece of equipment that comes across.
Other questions, comments? Councilmember Smith.
And they're only being hired for this one project. Could we potentially use them on something else if they're still under contract, or is it just?
It's just this one project. Yeah, the project, but there is, if the project finishes early, they don't get paid as much. Like this is the max amount that we'll pay.
Okay.
There have been cases, not always, where a project will finish early or they'll be done under budget and then they would not be needed. Services wouldn't be needed for another 3 months. So we would cut the contract short and they wouldn't have to pay out that. Not always, it does happen.
Are we under budget for the next item, which is related to this?
Yeah, so we budgeted 6.5 million in construction and 700,000 in construction management. That's how much we thought it was going to cost. So we're under 200,000 roughly in construction and about 500,000 in construction management. Because we thought it was so specialized, we thought it was going to cost a lot more to hire someone to do this.
Councilor Richardson.
So from my understanding, whenever you hire, and this is not the first time I've seen where we have construction and we have a separate entity doing management for the construction, it's kind of like purchasing some type of insurance to accountability and make sure the job gets done. And that way, if that construction group decides, start falling behind, then the management crew steps in and says, hey, do your job. And so that's the concept here. And if it's already funded and you guys have raised the money, then I feel good about that. I understand where you're coming from. It's like, maybe I should get a new job and do that too. But that's what this is. That's what this construction management is. It's just some type of security and insurance to make sure that the project gets done on time, right, and we got all the permits and codes that we need, and these guys are certified to do so. Unfortunately, the people here at the city don't have those qualifications. I'm not trying to talk down, but that's why they're doing this.
Councilor Hestonwood.
And when you talked about it getting early, that's what this Exhibit C is about, is that what each one of these roles are that we pay by the hour, these particular rates. And these are going rates for those positions. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Wood. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I would like to motion to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign Amendment 1 of the Professional Services Agreement for RH2 for design of the Southwest Reservoir, contingent on the approval of item D, which is the service contract with Tenpenny Inc. for the construction of the reservoir.
Second by Councilor Crossman. Just repeating this, we are voting on, the council is voting on item C under new business, amendment number 1, professional service agreement, contingent on the passage of item D. So you're voting on this item. If the next item fails, this is not going to happen. It's void. Is that understood by council? Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Should we have additional comment after the second?
We're correct. Excuse me. Is there any additional comments, discussion? Councilor Crossman.
Thank you. Say something real quick. This has been in front of us for a long time now, something new. We need, the city needs it, mainly for fire flow. And so yeah, this should be an easy yes, because we've been talking about this for over a year, right? Plus, I remember we times talking about this thing, so yeah.
Councilor
And
Kaminsky.
importantly, in our public services meeting today, we learned that this is just to maintain what we're dealing with today in terms of water and water storage, not even projected into the future. So we're just trying to catch up with where we need to be. So I absolutely think it's necessary.
Any further discussion?
I just wanted to make a good clarification. My memory of this discussion, it had to do with fire suppression. We needed that additional storage to create our pressure that we are required to have on that end of town. Is that correct?
Yes, there is the fire flow part of it, and then just our overall growth in general.
Sure.
Is there any further discussion? It's been motion seconded. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Kaminsky. How do you vote? Yes. Councilmember Palmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Hess?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson?
Yes.
Councilmember Wood?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you very much, Brad and Cody. Moving on to item D, public service contract, Tappanee Incorporated for the construction of the Southeast Reservoir. Brad, are you talking about this one as well?
Yes,
Please.
yes, we kind of went through it already, but we'll go through it again, just so everybody get out their questions. So again, the background, this was recommended through the system plan. For fire flow and our growth. We have 100% plans ready to go to construction. We received those 3 bids. Tappanee of Battleground was the lowest qualified bidder. The final bid tabulation you guys have. So staff recommends approval to authorize Mayor Joe DePinto to sign the public services contract with Tappanee in the not to exceed amount of $6,367,107.55, including Washington State sales tax for the construction of the 1.55 million gallon Southeast Reservoir. Do we have any more questions?
Questions, comments, council? Councilor Richardson.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize Mayor Joe to sign the public services contract with Tappanee Inc. in the not to exceed amount of $6,367,107.50 for construction of the 1.55 million gallon Southeast Reservoir.
Second by Councilor Smith. Is there any further discussion? Stool. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, thank you. So both motions, both item C and D are approved. Moving on to old business. We do have appointments from the City of Yelm Advisory Boards and Commissions. At this point, we're, Kathy, and I'm looking to you, we are going to be asking for that same vote again. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I believe I have a bunch of packets. Council can go ahead and, do they have to do it the same way? Can they split it up individually? Okay, so council can go ahead and vote on these individually, the appointments, or they can do it as the slate as it is on here. Take one and pass vote. As it is on this item summary. Just for the public's awareness, all of them are the Planning Commission, David Johnstone, Ashley Brooks, Arts Commission, Steve Harshfield, Parks Advisory Committee, Sandy Hansen and Ann Gorman, Police Advisory Committee, Neil Mead and Angela Longnecker, and Homelessness Committee, Ashley Brooks. Councilmember Hess.
One discussion for this, looking at the old meeting agenda items. What we voted on had all five. I show both of them with all five from December 19th and December 12th. So I'm not sure what's.
Like, talk.
Sure, go ahead, Sean.
12. Planning, arts, parks.
Either way, at this point, it's moot because we already rescinded the vote.
I just want to point out that the December 19th, when we had our discussion, which is after December 12th, we didn't vote on it then. We came to a study session in January, discussed it a little bit, pushed it to February to discuss the new process. And the first meeting of this month, we voted, and the motion I made was from the special session, the special meeting, December 19th, the five that were presented.
And hold on, at this point, that's still a moot point. We have rescinded that vote.
I just think it's clear.
Thank you for your comments. We will go ahead now. I'll entertain a motion either to approve as a slate, to individually approve, or to not take action. Councilmember Hess.
I move that we confirm Mayor DePinto's appointments to the Planning Commission, Art Commission, Parks Advisory Committee, Police Advisory Committee, and the Homeless Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kaminsky. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Smith.
My original question, and I don't know if you can just shed some light. There were originally 6, if I recall. There's 6 total. There's salary. Salary was one that's not filled. But when we very first started discussing this, there were, I believe, 15 applicants, something like that, and 6 positions, or yeah, 6 openings. And we're still not filling the salary position, even though there was an applicant. And that applicant is now on 2 different ones. And I guess I'm just curious why, with the amount of people that put in for these things, why we've doubled up.
Sure.
Okay.
One, I don't believe that person was qualified for met all the qualifications of that planning commission. And I don't have in front of me the applicants, but I know there was some that was listed as it's not qualified.
There was one that was not qualified and then one that was, at least on the original tally sheet we got. I'm not going to mention names.
Sure, sure.
Has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Sure.
I just thought it was concerning that we have 15 people out there that wanted to be on these and we doubled up.
Yep, that's fair. I
again, for my selections, I chose, as I mentioned, how I went through that process. Specifically for that one position, I wanted more than one person to apply for that. I didn't want just because you put in, just because you applied for it doesn't mean you get it, if that makes sense. For all the different reasons that
That's fair.
I choose people just because you put your hat in the,
Fair.
that's one of the reasons. I look, for diversity on the council, on these boards from all spectrums, I don't want just one single voice on all these. I want diverse opinions and all that. Those were my main reasons for choosing Joe's. And some also were because there were more than just these two for, let's say, the Parks Advisory. I'm going to specifically call them out. These are members that had served on the previously, and I wanted to reappoint them. Some of these are reappointments. So there might have been others, but I thought either do their engagement on the committee or other reasons like that is why I chose them. Does that answer that question?
It does. It's just out of 15 people, I'm just curious because there's one person that's applied to two, or that was appointed to two different ones, rather than spreading the wealth more. That was just my thought.
That's fair. On the one on the homelessness committee,
And I understand.
she was the only one that applied, I believe.
No. There were a lot that applied. Not a lot, but there were several.
Like we had 4.
For the homelessness committee?
Yes. The only one I saw, looking at that is I think there was one that was for the salary. There was one that was, it said not
eligible.
Not eligible, then there was one that was. Can't talk. But I guess, yeah. And I understand that appointment. I just didn't understand why somebody else wasn't selected for the other one to kind of, like I said, spread the wealth, for lack of a better term. That was it.
Sure. There's multiple people on here that serve on multiple committees and commissions. People that are on the Parks Advisory serve on, the Planning Commission as well. It's hard to get volunteers sometime, and yeah. But if there is a certain individual on here that you didn't want, we can absolutely go ahead and do it line or commission by commission.
It's not the individual. It was just looking at it and not understanding. When you have 15 names, why only X amount were selected? Okay.
Fair enough. And so right now there's been a motion and a second to vote on Planning Commission, Arts Commission, Parks Advisory, Police Advisory, and the Homelessness Committee as a slate. Is there any further discussion on this? Councilmember Smith.
Are we voting for them as a whole?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Hess. Answer. Is there any further questions? We'll go and do a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Kaminsky,
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer,
No.
Councilmember Hess,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Crossman,
No.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
No.
Motion fails, correct? This is under old business. Councilmember Smith.
Can we make a motion to approve them individually? Or could we have 5 motions?
I believe we can.
We do that now.
Yes, under old business. Yes.
Okay.
So I will entertain a motion then to approve the Planning Commission, David Johnstone and Ashley Brooks. Councilmember Hess.
I motion that we approve the appointment of David Johnstone and Ashley Brooks to the Planning Commission.
In that motion?
Second by Councilmember Richardson. Is there any discussion? Do a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Wood. No. Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman.
No.
Councilmember Smith.
No.
Councilmember Hess.
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer.
No.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Motion fails. Is there entertain a motion for the Arts Commission? Councilmember Smith.
I'll move to approve Steve Hirschfield to or your Joe DePinto's appointment to the Arts Commission.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Palmer. We'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Hess.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman.
No.
Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the Parks Advisory Committee. Councilmember Palmer.
I motion to confirm Mayor DePinto's appointment, Sandy Hansen and Ann Warman. Warman. To the
Second
Parks
that.
Advisory Committee.
Second by Councilmember Richardson. Councilmember Wood, how do you vote?
Aye.
I apologize. Any further, any discussion on this? Councilmember Crossman.
I'm gonna stick to my guns. I've always voted, so.
Okay. Any other further discussion? Councilmember Wood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman.
No.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Hess.
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Motion carries. Do we have a motion to approve Police Advisory Committee? Councilmember Hess.
I move that we approve the Police Advisory Committee nominees of Nabel Hamid and Angela Longnecker.
Second that motion.
Second by Councilmember Richardson. Is there any discussion? The roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Wood. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Richardson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman?
No.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Hess?
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Motion carried. Excuse me. Entertain a motion to approve the Homelessness Committee appointments. Councilmember Hess.
I move that we approve Ms. Ashley Brooks to the Homelessness Committee as recommended by the mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Smith. Start with roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Wood.
Nay.
Councilmember Richardson.
Was there any further discussion?
My bad. Sorry. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Wood.
Nay.
Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman.
No.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Hess.
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer.
No.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Three yes. Sorry, my apologies. Motion carries. My apologies. All right, we have the Arts Commission, Parks, Police, and Homelessness Committee. We do not have Planning Commission confirmed. All right, that doesn't state your old business, does it? Does the Planning Commission stand under old business?
Yes, please.
Oh,
Already do planning commission?
They voted it down, so no, because it was voted down.
It's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Councilmember Hess.
Okay, nope, and never mind. Unless you're gonna bring it up as new business in the future one, then I think it needs to be brought to the whole business of filling that position, not necessarily those two.
I do not know at this point if I'm going to be bringing it or if we'll just discuss at the, we'll leave it open for a few months until we have the conversation and vote on how we want to move it. All right, at this point, we'll move on to standing council committee reports. We have Public Safety Committee. Public Services Committee.
Yes. So we're gonna meet today. Councilmember Richardson came on board. So we got a nice review of all the city capital projects. There were 17 of them. I won't bore you with all the details of those, but do look for a vote coming up here in a couple of weeks for a contract for building the vehicle storage facility we talked about at the WRF. So keep that in mind, council. And the WRF is still delayed due to supply chain issues. So it's going to be a while for that. It's operational. And we talked about a bunch of other things. And then one thing to keep, we're May 18th, spring clean. Yelm, so mark your calendars, plan to clean up beyond that day. And then there is slated to be 174 homes, single-family residences built in Yelm this year. If everything goes smoothly, no apartment complexes. So that will be great for people like me. Hopefully in the future, not in this year, but in the future. Some cool things coming that will be coming our way here, but they're not ready yet. And that's, it was a long meeting though.
Councilmember Crossman, Finance Committee.
No meeting.
Moving on to Mayor, City Administrator, staff reports. Todd, do you have any?
Just a couple updates from municipal court. They had their annual passport audit, which they received an A+ rating. The process is there. The police are making offers to lateral candidates for employment, and they're close to an offer for an entry candidate as well. In the IT world, they're busy working on the whole 365 that you passed tonight, so thank you. It'll take some time to roll all that out. And from the Public Services Department, they're doing interviews for their administrative assistant position. They had over 30 applications for that position, and they start those interviews tomorrow. And as you may notice, the traffic counters are out at all exits to the city.
You're saying we should drive back and forth and put the numbers up?
I don't think you have to, but
Make some noise.
you can get out of it.
Questions, comments for Todd? The only thing I have is thank you for everyone that's attended tonight. It was one of the biggest audiences we've had for the year, for sure, for a while. Thank you for all the comments you made regarding the YMCA and other things. I do want to say, the gentleman regarding the business sign regulations, I will go ahead and ask the Public Services Committee to take a look at the sign codes again. If there's anything in particular that you wanted, that you thought is unfair or you want to change, send those either to myself or to the council, and we can, we'll have those discussed, and we'll go from there. Absolutely. That's all I have right now. Let's go in council member report. Councilor Wood.
I attended the Transportation Policy Board meeting. We adopted the 2024 week meeting schedule. We also discussed the Transportation Policy Board's process for electing officers. And we were presented proposed amendments to the RTIP, the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. And I also wanted to comment, I've been out later in the evenings, out in town, and I got to tell you, it's pretty cool to see how our officers are out there. I mean, it seems like they're just everywhere, and it's really nice. I mean, it really is nice to see just them out there doing what they're supposed to be doing, so.
Very good, thank you. Councilor Richardson.
Josh already talked about it. We're good.
Councilor Richard, or excuse me, Councilor Crossman.
I attended my first steady meeting on Friday. A lot of people there, a lot of organizations represented, no actionable items, just reports on what everybody's up to. And I would like to give a very special thank you to Coach Strand, 50-year retirement tonight, his last duel. So his years of service, I never had him as a coach of PE when I was in high school, but he was there. He's been a great mentor to a lot of youth, and I know there's a lot of people in this room that Coach Strand has affected in their life.
Did you say he was there when you were a student there? Oh.
Oh, way before me. I know it was a few years ago.
I mean, I've seen with me, but yeah.
Yeah, before my time, he was there even. 50 years, yeah, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's a long time for any organization.
And then lastly, this is a request, some maintenance to be done since we got our handbooks back, which thank you. I've been perusing the city website since I didn't have this guy. And there's a lot of info that needs to be like deleted, archived, cleaned up. So if we can start to work on that, I'm like, because some of it was a little confusing. And I was like, oh, wait a second, that's from like 10 years ago or something. I'm reading something that had no effect on what I was looking at now. So I don't know who's in charge of cleaning up the website, but and going through IT or what.
And I send a screenshot when I find it.
We're
I
still,
can't remember everything I went through.
it's a long process to,
Since 10 years ago.
we absolutely are though.
Yeah, it goes fast. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
No meetings.
Councilmember Hess.
Intercity Transit Authority, working on going to their office at some point, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, to look at the new program that they have that they're going to be implementing for not only on-call rides, but also developed for being able to have people overall. One of the things I'm going to be talking to the organization about is getting it so that Yelm maybe become the test bed. We only have one bus, Bus 94, and if we can get these on-call buses that come and get people to Hawks Prairie, to Regal Cinema, wherever in a shorter period of time, instead of go all the way downtown, it might prove to be worthwhile. So hopefully I'll have something in March to report about how that program looks. Additionally, some discussions that we've covered the water tower, which is good. One of the things that we need to consider as a council probably this year is there's discussions about how not only auto insurance, but also property insurance is going up. They're all increasing because of various reasons. Property crime is one of the big ones for auto, but also if cars require so much to get fixed, the costs. But the one thing that we as a community can do to help out with insurance is make sure that we have the proper fire response and the proper law enforcement to help with the property crime. So even though we've never discussed fire response, we might want to start looking at something like that for planning, just so that when homeowners insurance start catching up with other insurance, hopefully our community, we can keep it down low because we have protection available. Other than that, nothing else.
Thank you. Councilmember Palmer.
No meetings.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
I had my first Thurston County Law and Justice Council meeting. It was very interesting, but mostly just administrative and introductions for new people. So I think it's going to be a really interesting council. And to Tracy's point, last week, or was it this week, I had an unplanned personal interaction with our fine Yelm police. Meaning I got pulled over, but I can attest that our police force is very kind, very polite, very nice, all good. That's my little bit.
Well, there's a story. Thank you very much. Do not have an executive session scheduled. Sorry, just to go back to mine real fast regarding the YMCA. Next step will include a couple funding proposals and options for the city council to consider at a study session. We'll do that one of the near ones, and then a possible action item at one of the following city council meetings. So I anticipate within probably less than 2 months, we'll have it teed up and ready to go for council. All right, at this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Smith? Adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We're adjourned.